Guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, recent, cutting edge, most important, useful, and interesting brain body tools so you can take better control of your body, of your brain, of your thoughts, of your emotions, and most importantly, of your actions to build the life that you absolutely love living. Today, folks, I'm going to be creating a video, and that's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time now, looking at my own behavior and how different things shape that behavior, and also looking at other people's behavior, not to judge, but just curious. Why do people do the things that they do, and why they don't do very often things that they say they're going to do or they say they want to do. And that, of course, obviously, again, back to my behavior as well. And what I learned, a huge piece of that answer is about curating our environment, especially our social environment and things that we consume. What do I mean by that? So my parents are in Russia right now, and I'm in South Africa. And every day I call my mom or my dad. And I'd love to spend a lot more time with my parents. But I also am kind of grateful that I got to be away from my home a lot since I was a teenager, since I went to university, because that, I'm sorry, guys, that allowed me to actually shape new social environment and choose what I wanted to consume and who I wanted to talk to, who I wanted to be surrounded with, instead of kind of soaking up more and more of my home environment and conversations that my parents used to have back then. And well, they actually, to be honest, have not changed that much around specific topics. And so I'm very grateful that I had this opportunity to reshape my psychological environment, my social environment. And because of that, my trajectory is going in more and more different direction from my parents and from my siblings and my immediate and a little bit more distant family. So the point here is, and the point that I'm going to be making in the video that I'm going to be making today, curation before creation. So if you don't like the mood, the energy, the words, the actions that you do, then the first thing I'd actually look at is your environment, specifically social and your media environment, what you consume. Back to my parents, why I started talking about my parents, because when I talk to them on the phone, I love them. I try to always bring some fresh perspective and to uplift their conversations. But I can't spend a lot of time talking to them because there is only so much I can do. And after a while, my parents still get back to that complaining, blaming, all of these vibes and conversations and comparisons and finding fault in someone else. All of this, I love my parents again, but I believe this is such a waste of anyone's time to complain about things that we don't like, or to find fault in someone else or the wrong doings. First of all, we all have our sides that we're not proud of. And when we look at the way we behave and what we do more objectively, there is always something to improve and something that is not really working well. And then the second thing is, why would you ruminate on things that are not great? Notice them and then go and create something else. What's the point of talking about that and talking more and more about that and spending more and more of your energy creating worse and worse energy in yourself? And then also on your media, on your social media, if you watch something, if you listen to someone and it doesn't make you want to go and work on things in your life to make them better, to make your life what you want it to be, then switch off that freaking media, it is not working for you if you just keep watching and watching and watching and not doing anything and feeling worse and worse about yourself. If you want to maintain positive trajectory in your life, and especially if you want to learn how to transform and turn your lower vibes, and we all have those days when we wake up and just not feeling like it, and the mood is lower and the energy is lower. The thing is, if you listen to the right people, if you consume the right media, if you have the right social environment, if you dedicate your time towards that, that's going to bring you up towards positive trajectory faster than anything else. And that's where the power of curating your mental, your cognitive, and your social environment lies. When your social environment and your cognitive and your mental environment are empowering, then you become almost unstoppable, because even on the worst days, there's going to be something or someone lifting you up and putting you back on track, on the upward directed spiral. So curation before creation. Stay tuned for that video. Today, folks, as I promised, I wanted to finish the first part of building the service, the product, building the beginning of your possible $1 million business in a weekend, in 48 hours. We are continuing the book study, $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan, with the subtitle, The Surprisingly Simple Way to Launch a 7-Figure Business in 48 Hours. Yesterday, we talked about different ways of figuring out a bad idea, or finding the idea that can potentially become a $1 million business. Today, we're going to talk about validating this idea. Can this idea actually become a $1 million business? And there are simple ways, very fast, simple ways that you can use, that you can try out, that Noah used to build not one, but many $1 million businesses. He actually took other people through the same process. And the book is based on real life scenarios and case studies. And he took multiple challenges himself to prove to himself and the rest of the people that it actually works. And that is a much better, more rewarding way to be an entrepreneur and actually working on something that has a much bigger potential to succeed. So today we're going to talk about how to validate your idea, verify it with your actual existing customers. So you have a great foundation, a beginning of the business that has a real, not thinkable or some potential in a la la land opportunity, but real value and real chance to become your $1 million business in a very, very near future. So, okay, you got your idea. Noah actually recommends to get 3 ideas that you really like, or that sound potentially very promising, and also ideas that in the area, in the zone of your influence, where you have customers that you can deliver this product to, and also that in the niche that you actually understand. And it's going to be much, much easier for you to build products, to build solutions, to create anything of value. And it's always easier to create anything of value in the areas, in the niches where we actually understand something, not starting something from scratch where we don't have a clue what we are doing, right? So Noah, as any businessman with a brain, would recommend to start in the area where you actually have knowledge and have expertise. So besides that, and besides thinking about your own problems and problems of the friends or your zone of influence, your social circle problems that you hear about there, or exploring marketplaces and looking at different bestsellers, products and services, and how perhaps you can jump on the trend. So all of that was in the previous episode. So listen to that episode we did last time. Today, now let's validate our idea. Is this idea, or are these ideas that we have, 3 of those ideas, can potentially become $1 million businesses? And the same process I'm going to be using this weekend to rework the business ideas that I already have to make them more profitable faster. So how to validate our idea, how to know if this idea actually has $1 million potential. So number one, you got to figure out whether that idea, that service, that product is in the growing market or in the flat market or maybe in a dying market. So what I mean by market? Market is where products and services are exchanged for usually money with your customers. And the demand for a certain product or service can either grow, can be kind of steady, or can be dying. Like, for example, if we take newspaper business, at some point, and I believe still now, it's getting lower and lower percentage of customers' money because we have all this digital media. So the market of newspapers and printed magazines, any printed media, is actually dying. And so if you were to start some newspaper or magazine business, that's not a great idea to be in because the market is dying and you're going to have less and less and less and less customers as the time goes on. And that's not where you want to be if you want to create a thriving business that just keeps on growing. It seems all complicated, but Noah actually advises gives you a really simple tool how to figure out, like, is the market is dying or growing or it's flat. The beauty of our world today, as we have a lot of tools and data that are easily accessible, even for free, to figure out all these things, like, is the market growing, dying, not going anywhere? So Google, one of our biggest companies shaping our world, it actually has this tool, Google Trends, where you can put in different keywords, like, for example, beard oil or beard care. I'm not into beards, but that was the example from the book. And the Google will tell you how many queries are ongoing, and either the trend is growing, so you get more and more inquiries about beards and beard care and beard oils and creams and lotions, whatever they use. I'm not sure, not in the beard business again. But, or for example, high performance coaching, that's my area, or nutrition coaching consulting, or weight loss coaching consulting. Now you put these words into Google Trends tool, and it will show you whether you get more and more inquiries about that, whether the keywords getting more and more popular, or they're getting less and less popular, or they've kind of been steady or growing. That is a good sign. So that is the first step to understand whether your idea is worth pursuing or not. Or for example, if you decide to make cookies with a taste of chicken livers, well, you might look it up on Google and probably not going to see a lot of inquiries about that. So that might give you an idea that might not be the best business to pursue. So that's number one. See what's trending, whether you are, again, in a growing, flat, or dying market. And also use your common sense. Right? If you don't hear about that thing much, maybe there is not a market for flourishing business, at least not right now. So it's going to be a long ride into $1 million future. I'm not saying that, weird ideas or novel ideas not going to succeed, but do realize that it's not going to be an easy ride. The next one is, well, does your product actually have enough customers to sell to? And Noah recommends to use a Facebook ads tool. Did you know, for example, that when you design an ad for Facebook and when you put in keywords that define your demographic, like, for example, for me, entrepreneurs, founders, right? When you put into demographic these keywords, Facebook, and again, this is all without paying, Facebook will actually show you you can also specify geographic area. How many people are in that demographic, in that category? And so if you put in, let's say, men from, 30 to 50 in that, in South Africa or in US or in that specific city, demographic is also something that you need to have access to sell your product, to start selling your product. And so, for example, if you define a demographic that you have no access to, if you define a customer that it's going to be super hard for you to reach without substantial investment, that's also probably not a great idea to start with. You want to have an easy access to a customer who's going to buy your product. So that means geography, that means your social circle. But then again, back to Facebook ads. So you put your demographic, like entrepreneurs, you can put the age, you can put the geography, and then Facebook will show you how many people are, according to their data, and almost everyone is on Facebook. So it's a big data set. So Facebook will show you how many people are actually in that niche, in that customer base that you potentially going to be selling a product to. And so if you get, let's say, 1 million people, or you might have 200,000 people, whatever that number is. If it's, 100 and you're trying to make $1 million business of it, so obviously it's like you'll have to sell 10,000 units depending on the price. So that's the next step. Okay, let's say you have 200,000 people in that demographic, but usually you would have quite a good number if you choose, pretty good idea that of a product or service that people do actually want, that there is a real customer base, there is a real demographic that you might be selling to. And by the way, as we discussed in our last episode, demographic or your customer identity, that's the first thing you want to figure out. And if you are not sure who that is and the problem that they have, then the idea that you're pursuing probably is not a great idea, and you have a huge chance that it's not going to work, because the right way how to start entrepreneurship, the right way to succeed faster and with a higher rate of success, is to figure out first who and then what problems they have and how you can, in the unique way, how you position to solve this problem with your product or service, right? But then again, back. So we figured out that the market is, let's say, growing or at least not dying. We figured out that, okay, there are 200,000 people at least of the customers that we can potentially sell our product. And then obviously you have your product or service. So let's say if that's group coaching that I'm looking into. So I was walking today and thinking to myself, okay, if I'm going to sell a group coaching to founders, and let's say I'm going to make them pay something very affordable, like $150. And I have, let's say, 15 people in the group. So that's going to be, about 2,200 something per cohort, right? So now this is for 15 people for 3 months, if that's the price. And let's say I can take on 20 of those groups. So I'm going to multiply, let's say like 2,000, I'm going to multiply by 20, and that's going to be 4,000. That's going to be what? 40,000. If my mathematics aren't right, please forgive me. I just want you to understand also the idea. And then in order to make 1 million, I would have to run around 25 to 30 of those groups, but I only have 3 months, 4 times in a year. So in order to make 1 million a year business, that's kind of going to be hard and a lot of time. And so I'm like, might rethink that idea. And so the next step, you want to understand how many units, how many hours do you need to sell, and at what price, to that demographic that you define to even have a chance to get to $1 million. And so if you're selling something that gives you profit, let's say $5, it can be a product, like Noah also talks about beef jerky business, and you have only, let's say, 20,000 customers that are going to be an easy sell, like that are easily reachable. So $5 profits by 20,000, that's going to be $100,000. And so it might be an okay business, but it's not going to be $1 million business. And it's a very easy process, but it helps you to understand, like, what am I shooting for? Does this idea even have the potential to be financial viable to the degree that satisfies me? And it doesn't, and if the mathematics do not compute well, then guess what? Probably not a great idea to work on. And then Noah talks about, well, yeah, maybe idea with this specific mathematics not going to work. But if, let's say with beef jerky example, you start selling a subscription service where now one customer going to mean instead of $5 in profits, $30 in profits because you sell them packages, or maybe even better, you sell to companies that gonna, that one offer from that company might mean $500. And now all of a sudden those, and maybe there are more companies that you have access to, but let's say it's the same 20,000. So now 20,000 you multiply by 500, and that is 20 by 5, can be 100,000, and then we get, what is it, million? Is it a million? So you see, the mathematics now work much better. And so in order for your idea to work, you need to figure out that mathematics. Maybe you need to change the amount of units that you sell per customer. Maybe you need to change the customer, and by doing so, you're going to sell more of the same stuff in one offer. Or maybe you need to pursue a completely different idea, or rethink your customer again, or rethink your offers, maybe your margins, maybe your supplier. But the whole idea is, before jumping into the idea, before developing a website, an app, or thinking about the investment, first, you got to understand whether that idea has a viable potential, a chance to deliver the amount of money you want to make. And if it doesn't, or is going to be super hard, and you decided to work with customers that you have no access to, guess what? Your idea is almost destined to fail. And I think in my personal life, to give you also, to share my personal story a little bit more to make you understand, that's been my problem. I've been trying to sell to customers who I didn't have access to yet. Now, like, I have a lot more access to the same customer that I was trying to sell to. But back then, the idea was great, but the customer, I didn't have access to the customer who would buy this idea. And so that would made my idea fail. So when evaluating your idea, first, again, you need to start with the customer, make sure that you have access to that customer, make sure that there are enough customers to buy your specific thing for that specific price. And then brings me to, and it's not in a dying market where you have less and less and less customers. But then you need to verify that your hypothesis that that idea is going to sell is actually right. And the only way to verify it is to actually get people to pay you money before you make it. So Noah's designed a challenge, and that's what I'm going to be doing as well this weekend. And the challenge is about getting 3 people or 3 customers to pay you, maybe not at full, maybe a deposit, depending on what exactly you're selling. If you're selling, let's say, a golf trip that's going to cost $5,000, then you're probably not going to get the full deposit. But part of that deposit from the people who really want to go, that's going to be a verification of the idea, of the concept that you have for business. So the challenge is, in 48 hours, you got to find and make them pay 3 customers. And that's how you know that your idea actually has legs, because everyone is interested until they have to pay. And it's the same like with everything in life. Everyone is interested at least until they have to invest into that. Everyone is interested in relationships or business ideas or this or that. Everyone is interested in getting the result. But when you tell them like to pay with effort, with time, with money for that, that's where you actually see who is truly interested and committed and who is just thinking about things. So the same couldn't be more true for business. So don't ask, what do you think about my idea? Would you buy it? And yes or no. That is castle in the sky or castle made of sand. You need to make people pay. And that's another mistake that I used to do. I would ask people whether they would pay it and they would say, yeah, sure. But that's not enough, folks. Yeah, sure is very easy to do. Paying with your money, that's what shows real interest. So the challenge is in 48 hours, using all these tools that we talked about on the podcast before and today, using all these ideas, and then the last step to figure out whether your idea has legs is to find and get 3 paying customers that will deposit, prepay fully for your product or your idea just by you explaining what it is and what problem it solves and how it's going to make their life absolutely amazing or better in some way. And the way to do it, to get your first 3 customers, Noah also describes the whole process. The process is listen, options, and then transition. So listen is about understanding customer problem. That basically means reaching out to a real person, to a real business, and asking them about the problem that you're trying to solve. And Noah has questions in his book, and also he has different tools to improve your offer on his website. So that's why I highly recommend his book. And again, I'm not affiliated, not getting anything from him, but this podcast is, first of all, for me to get deeper understanding of the concepts, and then also to share it with you so you also get the benefit. Even if you don't get the book, it will make you think differently, more strategically, and in a way that will give you more chances to succeed with your idea. So listen, options, and transition. First, listen. You gotta ask questions like what is the most frustrating about this problem or this phenomena or this thing? Obviously, different services, different products, you have to kind of mix and play with that. You're not going to be asking about beef jerky. What's the biggest frustration that you can't get it? You simply want to excite people. Okay, I'm doing this business, supplying beef jerky every single month. You get new flavor or whatever, like super amazing quality. Do you want to be one of the first customers? Supply is limited. If you do, please send this amount to my PayPal. And that's probably all you're going to do and see whether people want it or not. In more complex products and services, you want to discover the problem. Like, what's the most frustrating about the experience right now? What would this mean if you get to solve this problem? And then what would you pay for that kind of service and product? And you listen what people are saying about their problem and how they would like it to be solved and how it's going to improve their life and what they're willing to pay for that. And then based on that, you give them options. So if you got X, would you buy it? Will it be a no-brainer for you? What are you willing to pay? And what you're looking for here is excitement. You're like, hell yeah, I want this. Why nobody else offered me it yet till this point? What you're not looking for is low energy and kind of people trying to change the subject of the conversation. You're looking for excitement, readiness, and drive almost to get that thing that you are offering. And if you do see that excitement, then you transition to the sales process. So if I solved this problem or if I deliver this product and service that would do X for you at this price today, would you pay for it? And you also bring the price here. And if the customer says yes, then ask them to pay, to PayPal you, to do whatever, the easiest payment option is available. And if they send it to you, then it means, you got your first customer and you got 2 to go to make sure that that was not a fluke and you actually got real problem and real service and product that's people want and that is solving someone's problem or satisfies someone's desire. So you get another 2 customers in order to have true verification that it's not some fluke of nature, but it actually real thing. And then obviously sometimes people will tell you no, but here is the key. And what I also advise to all of my clients. And I only recently started to understand what no actually means and what it actually is. Rejection and getting a no, it's an opportunity to figure out a better solution. And so instead of just running away, I'm like, oh, that was so embarrassing. No, instead of that, you ask, why not? And people will explain to you, well, I don't like it. I don't want it. And then, instead of people would say, oh, yeah, I would surely pay for that some other time. That is basically Noah says a polite way to reject you. So if people are not willing to pay, ask them, why not? And then the next question, who's the person if the person says, it's just really not for me, not at this time, you might also ask, and you should always ask for referrals. Who's the person who'd really like it? Who I should get in touch with, who'd really love it and would want to get it right now? The next one, good to ask to figure out a better solution that might be out there, but you just haven't thought about that. It's like, what would make this a no-brainer offer for you? What would you pay for this? And then let people tell you what they actually want and value instead of you trying to manufacture this excitement about your idea that nobody actually wants, trying to sell that to people who do not want any of that. So instead, ask the customer that you have easy access to, that you love to deliver some service of value, like what do they actually want? And what are they ready to pay for it? Also, instead of running from rejections and no's, explore. Rejection and no is an opportunity to learn, to discover, and to make things better, and to improve, and to ultimately succeed. That's what they mean. Success, the way to success is, or failure is a way to succeed, or success is one failure at a time, something like that. I forgot the truism and the exact quote, but what you want to understand, every failure, every failed test, attempt, experiment, it's the opportunity to learn. And the only way you're not going to learn from it, if you're going to brush it off, run from it, and think that, well, next time I'll do better. No, you will not, unless you stop, pay attention, learn, and do things differently next time. And that is that. Wish me luck. I'm going to go into my 48-hour challenge this weekend, and I invite you to do the same. Obviously, the book has all the tools and a lot more bells and whistles to help you succeed. But even now, you have all the tools and all the thinking and all the better structures to approach your idea or creation of your new idea or new business in a much better way, more grounded, in a way that is based on the experience of entrepreneurs who made it happen. You have a much better chance to succeed with all the tools that I shared on Wednesday to find your idea, and then today to validate, to verify that idea, and to ultimately succeed. And as Noah says at the end of his book, and by the way, in the book, he also has additional section with a few chapters about social media, how to approach it in a better way, about growing your email list and what email list is actually for and what newsletters are for and how to get yours. Very simple, very down to earth. Like anyone can do it if you decide to commit that, right? So that's also in the book, in the Grow It section. We were in the Build It section. And so pick up the book for that reason. But anyhow, folks, now you have the tools to approach your entrepreneurial journey in a better way, in a more successful way. And so if you are done with excuses and thoughts about why things will not or did not work for you, and you're ready for action and embrace the discomfort and figure it out and fail and then eventually succeed, then take this challenge, pick up the book, and let's make millions happen. Hope you had a lot of value. Thank you guys for listening. Wish me good luck with the 48-hour challenge, and I'll see you on the other side. Talk to you soon. If you have any questions, please reach out. And there is a link to Noah's book. Again, not affiliated, but I believe it's heck of a book. One of the best books on entrepreneurship, if not the best books out there. So get it, take the challenge, build your millions and the life you want.